Cathar Love 116, The Unfinished Revolution. The medieval Cathars were indeed revolutionaries. Not that they considered themselves revolutionaries. They were simply good people trying to live good lives, and they weren't interested in all the trappings and rituals and commandments and things of the church of the day, which was the Catholic Church. And apart from a few other small groups like the Waldensians, of course, Islam wasn't involved in Europe, and the poor Jews were persecuted. So it was the Catholic Church. So that was the power. This was everything. And here's these Cathars who were developing and evolving with their religion, their philosophy, and being Gnostic, thinking about things and the science of the times and what was known, and just evolving. But they derive with their absolute basics and the fact that rather than the God of the great faiths, which had conditional love. If you're good, you went there, and if you're bad, you went there. To the Gnostics, it was an unknown God, but what they did know was, to the Cathars, that it was a God of goodness and love, and that the whole system we went through was a process which involved reincarnation. And we're here to learn about life, to become wise in the art of living, discover ourselves. And we can't do that over one lifetime. In fact, we need many, many lifetimes to do that. And this is myriads of life experiences, both good and bad. And so understanding that it's a process, and it is a process, and eventually that ultimately no one is damned, or there's no damnation and no salvation. Ultimately we'll all return to the source. That's everything that was created by the source. And the fact that everything that was created by the source had this divine spark, whether it's a rock or a tree or a flower or an animal, one needs to respect it. So the Cathars respected the mountains, they respected the trees, and they respected animals. Because of this, that they had a divine spark. Everything created had a divine spark, and everything that's created will ultimately return to the source. So this at least they did know. But things like baptism, not interested. Marriage, not interested. If you wanted to get married, get married. It was neither the end or their children weren't interested. Why bring a child into this terrible world? You know, there's enough people here on already without bringing more in. If you bring in a child, well, that's well and good. But don't make a welter of it. And whereas religions, quite contrary, had these rituals and sacraments and truths and dogma, and you must get married, and you can only marry once, and have as many children as you possibly can. In fact, as the church said, if a woman doesn't have a baby every year, she's committing murder. And all religions gave women a hard time. It's a true Jewish prayer. Thank God I wasn't created a woman. In the Quran, women are submissive to men. And with the church, I mean, it just goes on and on and on. One guy said, girls grow up and mature faster than boys because women are like weeds, and weeds grow faster than crops and flowers. So it was terrible the way the church actually treated women, and their attitude to women, and what they actually taught women were soulless creatures. And this animals, I think therefore I am, Descartes, the philosopher, French philosopher, and so his famous saying, I think therefore I am. But he promulgated the fact animals did not have feelings. And he said, so when you beat a dog or an animal and it cries out in pain, it's just like a clock. It's just like the cuckoo and the clock. It's an animal, but it actually feels no pain, even though it makes signs of pain. So this allowed people in Europe, obviously Christians, to maltreat animals. Well, the Cathars said, no, you have to respect life. And in fact, one of the tests for checking out the Cathars was to make them kill an animal, because they wouldn't kill anything. This is the Cathar Perfecto, of course. This is the Cathar clergy, the Cathars, the credenti, the people who more or less followed the faith but went about their normal lives. Depending on their belief, but they needed to kill animals. But the funny thing was that, not the funny thing, the people who ate animal meat in those days were wealthy, because it was a rare time when the peasants and the ordinary people had meat. So it was really a feast, an occasion. So they mainly ate their grains and vegetables. Meat was the prerogative of the rich. So, what the one thing about, or a major aspect of Catharism, is that it's the delightful way in which to live your life. It caters to your curiosity, to your seeking knowledge, science, no matter what it is, in the arts, seeking. It's all for dancing, it's all for living a good life, a wholesome life. It respected life. There was no day of judgment. Like the only judging that a Cathar has is judging himself. It's how are you going about your business? What are you doing? It's about yourself. That doesn't mean to say we shouldn't be smart and we shouldn't know what's going on, and we shouldn't know what's going on with other people, and also what makes people tick, including ourselves. But the thing is to keep away from judging, mainly because we don't have all the facts. Of course, there's a situation called the human condition, and there's an argument, or one of the arguments goes that, are we like children and be loving and kind and tender, or are we really, with the dark side of our natures, like a ravenous beast, and we're there to get power at any price, claw our way to the top, even if it means walking over people, killing people. And so we have this dilemma. And young people, they're going from childhood and they're into puberty, into adolescence, and they're confronted with this. And in Australia, there's something like, it's like a person a day or more committing suicide. And a lot of these are young people, students, and they're just confronted by the enormity of what life should be like, loving and kind and decent to one another, helping each other. And yet they realise that half the world's population is in poverty. 3 billion people are in poverty. The figures for that it's just staggering. And wars and they become aware of politicians that lie, and if you're a girl and you or belong to possibly a slightly different colour of skin or an accent or something like that, that you may not be treated as well if you belong to some other faith than what the faith of that particular country. People are going to give you a hard time, and so a young person is confronted with all this, and so usually the advice is, well, do as well as you can, get to university, get that, and then you can get on top of things, and you've got money, and with money you can, things can work for you, and you just got to get on with life and just resign to your fate, really. But with Catharism, you're giving people a process. You're saying, well, you know, you're going to have good times and you're going to have hard times. You know, there's a good side to your nature and there's a dark side to your nature. So, but this is, everybody has this the darker side of the nature. We are all capable of wonderful things, but we're all capable of doing some very, very nasty things. So this is it. So we're neither good nor bad, but we're caught with this particular things. Caught within these paradigms. And of course there's people who are just psychopaths. Now, there's an interesting group of people. Not all psychopaths. We often think of psychopaths as someone going around their criminal minds and so forth. This does happen. You can have criminal psychopaths. And we're learning more and more about it. And psychopaths, well, until we're 4 years old, we're all psychopaths. But around the age of 4, we suddenly become aware of empathy and other people and other people's feelings. And they even now with the MRI, the magnetic resonance machines, they can map out these things in the brain, and they know there's a thing called spindle hormones, spindle neurons, not hormones, spindle neurons, and they're rather large neurons or large cells in the brain, and there's the amygdala. It's like 2 almonds. I think that comes from the word almonds, and that connects with the APFC, the prefrontal cortex, and these are quite large cells. And we don't have them until around about 4, and so babies, they're lovely and cute and so forth, but their whole world is just about themselves and surviving. But at 4 years old, we suddenly get that, become involved in other people's feelings and wants and hurting, and how you can hurt others and what it's like to hurt others, and we gain that, and we had that. The other people that have, the other animals that have it are the greater apes, the gorillas, the bonobo monkeys. They're the closest to humans, and but psychopaths don't. And this is something they've discovered. Now, there's a great book out. It's called Taming Toxic. I've got it somewhere. Taming Toxic People by David Gillespie, an Aussie, and he's really researched the subject, and it's really an eye opener as to who are psychopaths and who aren't. And the basic thing about the difference between a psychopath and a person who has empathy, or an empathetic person, is that the psychopath doesn't empathise with other people's feelings. It just doesn't come into it. And probably the most well-known psychopath in the world today is and going on how they judge psychopaths and the score that they give them, and is Donald Trump. And the guy that did his biography was saying that we was talking to him over the phone, and at the time of the Twin Towers, and he really wasn't particularly concerned about it, and he was more concerned the next day that the stock exchange was closed, rather than what would happen to the people. And psychopaths lie, and the New York Times decided to, this is prior to Donald Trump becoming president, to check out in a particular time period how often he lied when he made a speech. It was every 3.56 seconds, and so then another person, a columnist, took it even further, and just made, no matter what it was,
the lies, but they did it also with Hillary Clinton. It turned out that it was this guy it was this guy, not the New York Times, who worked out that Donald Trump was lying every 3.56 seconds, and Hillary Clinton was every 12 seconds. So, but then she wasn't speaking as much. And so these people, Hillary Clinton and Trump, score high as psychopaths. So, but the most interesting one in the book, and I think the one that socks most people between the eyes, not so much in my case, was Mother Therese. Now she's now Saint Mother Therese of Calcutta. But I read about maybe 15 years ago this very large article by an Australian young Catholic lady who wanted to become a nun, and she joined the order with Mother Teresa, and she worked in Calcutta. And she said that the conditions there were absolutely horrific, and it was more like a concentration camp. She says there that Mother Teresa had been given gifts, the bank accounts were running in the millions, and yet they just reused needles, they just washed them, they didn't sterilise them. And when asked why not, I said, well, what's the point? There was no opiates or morphine or things like that. The actual there was few doctors, and most of the people were untrained nuns, nurses with little training, and the people just on stretchers. They had no chairs. There was no yard for them to walk in. I mean, Belsen, at least they had bunks that people slept in, beds. And when questioned about that, Mother Teresa said, "Oh well, it's wonderful that these people are suffering. So she had no empathy for those people." This woman who was there, she said on one day, she said that the last straw was a Tuesday, and there was a knock at the front door. She went to the door, and a woman was there, an Indian woman, had a baby, and she said she couldn't look after it, and she had other children, and would they please accept it? And she said, so she took the baby in, and of course it was for the orphanage as well. And the sisters, the nuns came around. "You can't do that. You can't do that." And she said, "Why not?" She said, "It's Tuesday. It's when we pray. We don't do that." And she said, "What's more important, prayers or a baby?" So anyway, she said, "I just gave it away." And she said, "In fact, it really, I gave away religion altogether, and I'm now an atheist." So she went from a young Catholic girl who wanted to do good, and in the end became an atheist. And it was a very large story, and she related incident after incident. And I noticed as well, there was a Mother Teresa of Calcutta by Hitchens, who comments on lots of things. But the thing was that when it came to her time, and when she was ill, she had the very best of care, and in California. So it's this lack of feelings for the pain of others, lying. So this is I don't think there's many. I don't think you could be a psychopath and be a Cathar, because Cathar is about being good, decent, kind to other people, and very much to yourself. So with the Cathars and how it's an unfinished revolution, at that time it was a major social upheaval, because people simply, the Cathar, down to earth, the fact if sex, that's fine, that's there, it's natural,
You want it, have it, don't have it, that's up. It's just a normal, natural thing. All things to do with the body are natural, and therefore can't be anything wrong about them. The most important thing was not marriage, but it was the relationship between male and female. The other thing was that males and females were equal. There was no difference, apart from biological differences, between a male and a female. Even today, in so many countries, so many religions, women are still subservient to males. And here is, at the first millennium, here at the Cathars, saying, no, men and women, we're all, whatever, man, woman, child, you know, we're all entitled to the same. There's no difference. So it was a revolution. It was a revolution in thought, it was a revolution in act, and it was a revolution in deed. So much so that Pope Innocent III, who was regarded by many as the greatest of all popes, not by the Cathars, and is somewhat of a misnomer, Innocent, because it was Pope Innocent who realised that he said 80% of my bishops and priests, monks and whatever, are either Cathars or Cathar sympathisers. And he could see the Catholic Church disappearing. He could see Catharism taking over. So it was a revolution in philosophic thought. The Cathars didn't regard themselves as a religion. They were just doing their thing. So all other people who named them as a religion, they didn't even call themselves Cathars. They referred to themselves basically as bon homme, bon femme, good men, good women. And this was a revolution which would have been wonderful for the world. It took away, number one, it took away the emphasis on having children. What was more important was quality of life for you, for the environment, for the animals, for everything. This was the important thing. How you related to these things, how you related to your person, to your family, to whoever you were involved with. They couldn't care less whether it was, they weren't into gay or not gay, straight, race, creed, race, all these things. They were just non-events as far as they were concerned. The whole point was, it was all about love. Now, you can condense this really into love, amor, and power is Rome, which is R-O-M-A. Roma, it's amor versus Roma, or Roma versus amor, Rome versus love. And unfortunately, Rome won, and it brought in a crusade, which the crusade was successful as far as the battles were concerned, with the culminating battle, the Battle of Muret in 1209. But it was when Montsegur fell in 16th March 1244 that really the heart and soul of Catharism disappeared, and then when Pope Innocent commenced the Inquisition, it took another 200 years, but through the Inquisition, it completely wiped out Catharism, and from the south of France, and then later from Italy, and although there was little groups scattered here and there, slowly they just disappeared because they didn't have the clergy and the different people to help sustain them. So it's rearing its ugly head, and it was a social and philosophic revolution
which brought about nothing but goodness, and it's an unfinished revolution. Now, I'm not suggesting that the world becomes Cathar's, but the world can learn to love unconditionally and unjudgmentally, as is meant by the Cathar philosophy. And if that ever happens, then the revolution will be complete. Bye for now. Talk soon.